Well, good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve the Patch Smith. Supposed to get this thing off today. We'll see how that goes. Hope you all are well. I didn't think that I was going to make another one about this today, or for a while didn't think I was going to have to. But this is going to be kind of a patch on the end of the one I did yesterday about is a Great Depression coming. And the reason that I'm doing it, I got some great questions. I got some great comments from people saying and telling me that the way they had thought about preparedness had changed as a result of watching this channel and reading my books, and that is great. That's my whole purpose. I've been at this a long time, guys, and I hate what so many fall prey to when they're listening to the fear channels, and that's what I try to get everybody back online. Don't be afraid, be positive, get out there and do something, and you can do something, and what you can do is limited only by what you are determined to do, okay? But then I had a couple of good questions from people, and I've noticed already this morning, I checked through the titles on a lot of other channels, and they're still talking about the Depression. I'm going to tell you some truth here about the Depression, okay? About a Depression coming, and whether we're in it, whether it's coming, and what to do about it, and then you can take that truth and run with it if you'd like. And I hope that you do, because it's going to make all the difference. Okay. The questions that I had, and here again, we got some great comments. Thanks to everybody for commenting. I will say one thing. As you know, I'm on the lookout for some positive preparedness channels, and I did have a couple of people leave a couple of recommendations on YouTube. I had to delete those comments. Nothing against the commenter, but they happen to be about channels that I am familiar with, and I do not consider them shall I say positive enough, because they throw in information with which I disagree. So I don't suggest, I don't promote opinions with which I disagree. That's just right. I mean, why would I, right? Would you? No. So I will say this: please, no more suggestions for channels on the YouTube. Now, if you're on Patreon with us, go ahead and make those suggestions. And the reason that I say that is because we have a smaller group there. We have a much more experienced group there. And many of those people over there have gone through the gamut for years and years watching preparedness channels, and pretty much have narrowed it down to just this one, or maybe this one and another one, okay? So if you're on Patreon, please, I'd love to hear your recommendations for channels. I will promote them after I watch them for a while and determine that, yeah, I agree that they're positive and I agree with their message. So anyway, so getting back to this, I see that other channels are still talking about depression. But I had a couple of comments that were good comments, because they give me the opportunity to go farther into a question that I think a lot of people have, okay? I said yesterday we are not in a depression at all, not even close, and that's because you have to understand what a depression is. People who are saying we're in one don't understand what a depression is. It's not just because times are bad for you, okay? There are people in this world who are in constant depression because of the way they live their lives, and their families have been in depression. They've never known anybody who wasn't in a depression because of the poor way they run their lives. That's not what we're talking about here. That is not preparedness by any stretch of the imagination. That is generational suffering. Okay, it's as simple as that. I know there's a lot of people that are wound up in that, and that's too bad. And I'm going to tell you how to get out of it if you got the gumption to do it. And probably most won't, to be honest. It is a it's well, I'll get back to that if I have a chance. So no, we are not in a depression, nor are we even approaching a depression. Now, the two comments that I wanted to talk about here, and they made the statement, and they were good comments. So if this was your comment, they were so good, I almost brought in the other phone so I could read them, but I'm not reading too well right now. So I'll just do this from memory. So thank you for your comments. It gives me a chance to jump off here. They said, well, I think we're in a quiet depression or an invisible depression. There were two comments, and they were kind of about the same thing. Because if you think about everybody who is on welfare and food stamps and everything like this, if those people weren't on those things, you would have bread lines. You would see the depression, but we're not seeing a depression because of all those social programs. I understand that is an opinion held by many, and it is absolutely false. Absolutely false. Okay, how do I know that, guys? I've been paying attention to this and working in this field for many years. In the late 70s, I'm going to call it 78, 79, something like that. I worked off duty. I was a cop. We didn't get paid that much. Everybody had to work off duty jobs. And so I worked off duty at a grocery store in the hood. And for those of you who might be interested, who live in Kansas City or are familiar with Kansas City, it was a Milgram store at 36th or 37th and Prospect, deep in the heart of the hood. And I was there because they kept getting robbed. And so I'd walk up and down the aisles, sometimes carrying a shotgun. Just walk up and down the aisles, and once the word got out that there was armed security there, the robberies disappeared, and even shoplifting went way down. They didn't have as many people coming in the doors, but the people that weren't coming in the doors were the ones that were stealing anyway, so they didn't care. But I watched in amazement, and I had worked a ghetto district for several years, and so not much surprised me. But I'll tell you what did surprise me is I'd sit up front, right next between the checkout stands and the liquor department, which was right by the door. And I would watch people, and I mean a lot of people. I don't mean just here and there. I would watch a lot of people come through the line buying steaks and pop and potato chips and all this kind of stuff that I couldn't afford, to be honest. I couldn't afford to buy steaks on a cop's salary back then. And they would just rattle this, just loads of stuff right in their baskets, and whip out those food stamps and pay for them. And then they'd stop by the liquor department and pull out their cash and buy $100, sometimes more than that, a couple $100 of liquor. You see, it wasn't that they didn't have money. It was that these social programs that were brought about by LBJ's so-called Great Society was doing exactly what it was designed to do, and that was to make people dependent on the government or actually establish a secondary economy. So they didn't have to spend the money that they had on food. They could spend it on booze. Now, things haven't changed that much. And still, if you took away people's food stamps and everything else, you know what most of them would do? Most of them would get at their ass out there and make some money. Now, a lot of them would make money illegally. I'll be honest. They're going to get out there and they're going to sell drugs and they're going to prostitute themselves and they're going to rob people and all sorts of things. And we have things in place to take care of that. Okay? But they would do it. Excuse me just a second. Somebody says there's no jobs. Well, my 18-year-old son has two jobs and pretty much always has. Sometimes he's had 3 jobs. So don't tell me there's no jobs. Okay? I'll tell you what, it depends on where you live. And I'll probably do another one on, is it important where you live? And the answer is yes. Now, if you live in an area where there just aren't any jobs, why do you live there? Why do you live there? You see, here is a point of view. Here is a life, I don't know kind of what to call it. Here is a way of living life that is very destructive. And that is that too many people feel that they shouldn't have to do anything except what they're doing and still be successful. Do you know why anybody lives in in America? Because they came over from Europe and wanted to make a better life. You see, they just didn't stay in Europe and go, oh, things suck here, you know. No, they got on dangerous boats, took dangerous trips, came over here and weathered the dangers over here and made something of themselves. Do you know why we don't all live on the East Coast? Because people said, you know what, I can do better going somewhere else. We don't all live east of the Mississippi. You get my point, right? You get my point. It's up to each person to do what they feel it takes to better their lives. And if a person claims that they are interested in preparedness and they won't do what it takes to better their lives, they're not interested in preparedness. They're simply not. And I'm tired of hearing all this stuff. Well, I'm prepared, but I don't have any money to do this or that. Well, then you're not prepared, and you're not prepared to do what it takes to be prepared. Okay? It's as simple as that. When the Great Depression hit, it affected a lot of people. It affected you know what? Not everybody. Did you know that a lot of people came out of the Great Depression? Like I always say, that the people who lived through it said, wasn't that great? Better off than they went in. Do you know why? Because they worked their asses off. They saw opportunities. They worked their asses off. Other people just kind of, oh, woe is me. You know, it's kind of like the Grapes of Wrath story, right? Oh, or some of those songs, you know, Song of the South. Waiting for things to get better. Let me tell you a story. Both of my parents were born in 1926. So both of those sides of the family were raising kids during the Depression. One side, my father's grandfather, when he was out of work, he stood in a long line of men. You know, you've seen those long lines, looking for a job. And somebody came out and said, anybody know how to skin a cow? And he said, well, you know, he'd grown up on a farm. Said he could skin a deer and he could skin a squirrel, so how much different could a cow be? Raised his hand and went in, and he ended up working for Armour Meatpacking as a skinner and for 30 years. He did other things. I've told these stories. He did other things to make a lot of money on the side. I'm not going to tell those stories on YouTube. I tell them on Patreon, and actually I include some in my books. I've talked about it in my books, and I'm probably going to include it in the organized crime book that I'm writing right now. The other one, my mother's father and mother owned a music store. Well, the Great Depression hit. There's a lesson here if you're willing to learn it. Great Depression hit, and of course, you know, music was not exactly, it wasn't a necessity, and so they lost their business. Nobody was buying pianos. Nobody was, you know, and they lost it all. Well, one thing that my granddad had when things started getting bad, a guy wasn't able to pay him money he owed him, but he said he had a set of piano tuning tools, and would my grandfather accept those as partial payment? My granddad said, okay, whatever. So he had those. My granddad didn't know how to tune a piano, but he played the piano. He had sold pianos. He says he can figure it out. So my grandmother took out the phone book, the Kansas City phone book. You remember phone books, right? And started, she might have been the one who invented cold calling. She started at the very first A, and she called every single number, all down. She told each one, hello, we offer very affordable piano tuning. Would you be interested? Now, back then, a lot of houses had pianos because it was a central part of entertainment. People would play a piano. I grew up, maybe some of you did too. I grew up when we went over to the grandparents' house on Sundays, and after dinner, we'd all gather around the piano, and my grandmother would play the piano, and we would all stand around and sing. Did you all have that same experience? Today, I think people think that that's kind of silly. Back then, it wasn't unusual at all. As entertainment, young people would have friends over and roll up the carpet so that they could dance on the hardwood floor and dance in their homes. You see, it was a central part of entertainment. And so my grandmother did that, went through, and just every now and then, I don't know how, I should have asked her, wished I had. I don't know how many she had to call until she got a yes, but finally she'd get a yes. And my grandfather would go over there and tune their piano, and they'd get some money. And they did that, and they did that, and they did that, and they did that, and they stayed afloat. Now, he also went out, and I got some funny stories about this, and he sold a lot of trinkets and stuff around the Midwest to movie theaters, giveaways for people to get into movie theaters, and did a lot of things. And my grandmother sewed drapes and sewed a lot of other things, and so did my other grandmother. You see, they jumped on, they did everything that it took. They did whatever it took. Now, some people, and you've heard the stories about, well, the people in the country did just fine. Well, that's not true either. Some did just fine. Those people who had little farms or farmlets, who were able to raise their own crops and raise their own animals and things like that, they got through it. Okay, many of them, and I've heard stories about, well, we didn't even realize, the old story. We were poor, but we didn't know it. Well, they had been living kind of a subsistence life before that, and so their lives didn't change. But a lot of people in the country didn't. They didn't have the farms, the animals, the crops to support them. You know what they did? They moved to the cities, because the cities was where the jobs were. Okay, and now I'm getting back to this. If people live and it matters where you live, it matters. And if you live in an area to where there just are no jobs, or you live in an area that is experiencing economic downturn, you have a choice to make. But it's your choice, and you are responsible, for that choice. You are responsible for the results of that choice, because you are guaranteed the effects of the causes you choose. Cause and effect, okay? You choose the cause, you're going to get the effect. It's going to be good or bad, but don't blame anybody else. So if you live in an area where nobody has any money, nobody has any jobs, let me ask you something. Why do you live there? Why in the world do you live there? You see, the history of mankind has been to reposition themselves so that they could better their lives and better the lives of following generations. It's not just you, it's your kids, your grandkids, everything. And to simply be stuck, and I see this in way too many so-called preppers. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Well, okay. Then don't complain about being stuck. Simple as that. If you are living in an area where there's no jobs and nothing, move somewhere where there is. I didn't really like Sam Kinison. I didn't see him, the comedian. I didn't like the yelling and the screaming, and I didn't like the profanity. I thought it was unnecessary. Took away from his message. I know a lot of people like him. But he said one thing that really stuck out, and it's so stinking true. And he was talking about these people that go over to Africa or wherever, and they're showing, little kids with flies on them and starving, and because they live in a desert and mom has to walk 10 miles each way to get a jug of water that she carries on her head. These are people that just are not improving their lives, right? They need people from the outside to come improve their lives. And so he made the statement, he says, what in the world? He says, we have deserts here, but we don't live in them. See? See what I'm saying? This is America. You have to try to fail in America. And it's not just jobs. As somebody else said, well, there's not that many jobs that pay good benefits. Then get a job that doesn't pay benefits. Get 2 jobs that don't pay benefits. What do you want the benefits for? Okay? Get a couple of jobs, provide for your own health insurance, because that's what most people think about benefits, sick days and this and that. They want a lot of, to be honest, stuff that people have become used to getting from their work that people used to pay for themselves. Okay? So people are too stuck on that. Yeah, it's great to have bennies. I told you yesterday, I've told you before, my wife and I both lost our jobs at a big hospital system. Okay? Great jobs, big bennies and all that, and because we wouldn't take the poke, we were fired. They couldn't believe that we would give up those great jobs with the great bennies. We did because we were self-sufficient financially. Didn't matter that we had a bunch of beans and rice, because beans and rice don't pay the mortgage. Okay? It doesn't put gas in your car. Financial independence, financial strength allowed us, having multiple streams of income, allowed us to take that hit and not get knocked down, and we came back even stronger after that. Now, you see, I don't think I'm any better than anybody else out there. And so what I'm saying is, if I can do it, you can do it. But there's a lot of people out there who simply won't do it because they won't get up off their ass, and they'll rather complain than put in the work. Simple as that. So when people say, well, I think we're in a silent depression, no, we're not. We're not even close. And in addition, you can't find a full-time job, go get 3 part-time jobs. Okay? Until you find a good full-time job. Maybe you don't want to find a full-time job. Maybe 3 part-time jobs are better than a full-time job. I know a lot of people who do that. But not only that, the opportunities that are in your life every day are limited only by what you're willing to do. It's your imagination, it's your creativity, it's your abilities, and your determination to get off your butt and do something with your life. Like I say, this is America. If you want to fail, you have to try hard to fail. And sadly, we got too many who are trying hard to fail. So I don't want to keep doing things about this BS, depression this and depression that and all that. There are channels out there trying to get you on this. They're trying to scare you. They're pulling you in on this. We're not even, not only are we not in a depression, we're not close to a depression. If you're in a recession, it's situational, either to your job area or your area where you live. Change it. But not only are we not that, we are on the cusp of some of the greatest opportunities people in this country have ever seen. And I know, that message appeals to about 5% of the people out there. Well, probably more than that on here. But there's just so many more that would rather hear the doom and gloom and woe is me, my life sucks so bad, and I just love listening to other people whose lives suck, so that lets me know it's not my fault. Well, Uncle Steve's going to tell you it is your fault. It is your fault. If you're not doing well, get out there and do something and do better. All right? Hey, I've probably ticked off enough people out there, but the ones who I want to help heard it. Heard it. I want you to do better. I don't want you floundering in this morass of negativity. And if you'd like something that will really uplift you, that will give you the oomph to go out there and really prepare in such a way that you will have a life like you never had before, I'm going to show you what to read. And yes, they are my books. They are my books. I'm proud of them. It's the Stonemont series. The Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, An Appeal to Heaven, The Blessings of Freedom, Hostages to Fortune, and the very latest one, On Wings Like Eagles. The first one came out in 2017. People have been learning from these books ever since then, all over the world. Many people said it is the best post-apocalyptic preparedness, survival series they've ever read. Some have read through it 5 times and continue to learn. It's a great story. The reason that they don't catch all the lessons to begin with because they get caught up in the story. You're going to love the story. You're going to love the people in it. Yeah, I write about horrible things like cannibalism and slavery and everything like that. But you know what? I write about it in a way that shows you how you prepare positively so that you protect yourself against those things and create community. I say it's the complete guide to preparing for, surviving, and rebuilding after a total collapse of everything. And if you can do that, you will have great success making it through this non-depression that everybody's talking about. Okay? All right. You can get those. Almost forgot to tell you where. Through Amazon, and the link is down below, or you can get them from me, and I love it when you get them from me, because when you order them from me through our website, stonemont.us, that link is down below. I get to sign them for you. I get to see who you are. I get to write a little note in there for you. I get to see where you live. Don't worry, I don't say like his address. I say, well, this person's in Norfolk, Virginia. This person's in Billings, Montana. How neat is that? Sometimes you write me little notes on the order. Hi, Steve. Really love, your whatever. Like, I love it. It really is. I won't say that it, I won't go overboard and says it makes us friends, but it certainly makes us something, right? And I love that. But I do kind of consider everybody friends. So don't let these people get you down. We're not in a depression. We're not headed into a depression. You should be headed towards the best times of your life. And you are, if you'll get up and get out there and do what it takes. All right? All right. Hey, you all have a great day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And who knows, maybe tomorrow I'll be able to see out of this eye too. We'll see. Okay? Have a good one. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.